Hello, this is a little video on how to draw perfect squares and cubes in perspective so that you can insert circles and spheres in them. They're not gonna be perfect because I'm gonna show you how to eyeball them, but they're gonna be as accurate as possible. So drawing squares in perspective is a little bit tricky because they change their shape according to the distance from the horizon line. For example, if I were to draw the two front sides of that square here and the back sides there, you can see that this is a very flat square, very hard to eyeball and to know if it is actually really squared. So what I normally do, and that helps a lot, is to draw them a little bit farther away from the horizon line so that you have a better view of it, like this. So if you draw here the front sides of the square, then when you're gonna draw the back sides, it is a little bit easier for you to figure out their position. And they're gonna meet in that point right there where those lines cross each other. So now that you have drawn a square, then you can take it up to the position that you want just by drawing vertical lines. Let's do that. Let's do a vertical line from every corner. Here, 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 and here. All four corners, right? Now I can start transferring that square to any position that is closer to the horizon line, for example here. And I'm just going from line to line exactly as the one on the bottom. And you're gonna see that the squares become flatter and flatter the closer they are to the vanishing point. Or to the horizon line, right? The vanishing points are on top of the horizon line until they become just a super flat square near the horizon line. And if you were to draw it on top of the horizon line, you would just see a straight line. Now that you have squares in different positions, then you can go ahead and insert circles in them. So what I do is that I hover my pencil until the shape of the circle feels right, and I am trying to touch all four outside lines of the square, right? Do this as many times as you need to until this circle feels right. Now, if I do the same thing here, you're gonna see that the ellipse is gonna look much flatter in this second square. Why? Because it is closer to the horizon line. So just as the square looks a little bit flatter, the circle is gonna look flatter as well. Same thing here. And if you draw something above the horizon line, you're gonna have the same exact thing, but going upwards. Now, if I were to join all the outside borders of these circles, you will see that they match up perfectly. And this is the way in which you build a cylinder. So you can do a cylinder that is this high, or that high, or that high, the whole length. What about if you move it to another position? Then you're gonna have a longer side here, and this side is gonna look a little bit smaller because the vanishing point of the left is now closer to the object. So this line is gonna be a little bit smaller, just a little bit, and I am eyeballing it. And the way that you learn how to eyeball squares is to draw different options. Let's say I draw this line first, and then I need to figure out how deep I want to do the square. So if I draw my line here and here, and I draw this line, that feels not square, that feels like a rectangle that is longer in this direction. Now if I draw longer lines here, now it feels like a rectangle that is longer in that direction. So then I do something in the middle. And you start learning to eyeball squares until you feel comfortable with them. That still feels a little bit too long, so I'm going to shorten it a little bit until it feels right. And when it feels right, then I can insert my circle or leave it as a square, whatever it is that you're doing in that particular moment. Great. And that is the way to figure out round shapes in perspective. If you need to do a round shape that is not horizontal but vertical, then you're going to draw a square that is standing up. How do you do that? In the same way, you draw your vertical, and then you need to know how long to do it so that it is a square. So we're going to do the same thing. Draw a couple of lines, and then we're going to draw some options. If I draw it here, it feels like it is too high and too short. It feels like it's vertical in this direction, right? Not squared. And if I draw it here, it feels like it is horizontal, not squared. So you do something in the middle, and that feels squared. Then you can insert your ellipse in it. So that's how the circle would look in that particular position, right? What about if you want to draw a cube? Then in that case, what you're going to do is that you're going to start with the vertical. Let's say that you want to start with the vertical. And I'm going to draw the cube down here. I'm going to start with the vertical. And I'm going to work on one of the sides first. So let's do it. I'm going to draw these two lines a little bit longer, and I'm going to say the same thing. Here, it feels too short. Here, it feels too long. Here, it feels just right. So we have one side ready. Then I do the other side in the same way. So if I draw it here, feels too short. If I draw it here, feels too long. Something in the middle. Now I have two sides of the cube ready. And now all I have to do is complete the top by doing this and this. And if you want to do it transparent, all you have to do is complete the other two sides as well, here and here. And you could insert a sphere inside this box. So again, just hover your pencil until you feel that it is inserted in that particular cube. Now let me tell you a secret about spheres in perspective. Spheres in perspective are incredibly easy to draw. Why? Because when you're drawing a circle, the circle changes according to its position in relation with the horizon line. As you can see here, it gets flatter or it gets wider. Spheres look like perfect circles everywhere in the paper, anywhere you draw them. So you don't even need to draw a cube to insert a sphere, because the spheres are always gonna look like a perfect circle wherever you draw them. Why? Because they have the same distance in every direction. This distance is the same as this one, and it's the same as that one, and it's the same as that one. So it doesn't matter if you change your observer to any position, they are always gonna see a sphere as a perfect circle anywhere. So if I draw a sphere here, it's gonna look like a perfect circle. If I draw it here, it's gonna look like a perfect circle. So you don't even have to worry about drawing a box to insert a sphere. If you need to draw a sphere, you need to learn how to draw shadows, because you're gonna depend on shadows to be able to give a sphere form. For example, here, if the light was affecting the sphere from the top, then we would have the highlight here, and we would have around the center, we would have the darkest part of the shadow, and it gets darker the farther down it goes. And from this point, it gets lighter. So you depend on shadows to help people understand that this is a sphere and not a circle. But it's still just a circle. So I encourage you to practice different ways of drawing squares, because squares are much more important to learn how to draw than cubes. Because if you learn how to draw a square, you'll be able to draw a cube, because all you have to do is, if you learn how to draw a square here and a square on the other side, as we did here, then the cube is ready and you don't have to struggle with it anymore. So learn how to draw squares that are vertical and that are horizontals everywhere in the paper, and this little trick is gonna help you a lot to eyeball squares with more confidence. Then try to insert the circles in those squares, and that's gonna help you figure out how a circle, for example, a round table or a round coffee table, something as simple as a glass or a cup, would look in perspective in a particular position of the paper, but not spheres. Spheres are always a perfect circle anywhere you draw them. Okay, I hope this helped you. And if you have any more questions, just let me know and I'll be glad to make another little video for you. Thank you so much.